Very few actors have had quite the ride Meryl Streep did at the Oscars for the first decade of their film career, Streep receiving a whopping 8 Oscar nominations in just 10 years between 1979 and 1989, including 2 wins. As the 1990s began, the question was, could Meryl Streep keep the awards momentum going? I don't think anybody would have expected her to receive another 8 Oscar nominations in this decade, but I would say 3 or more seem likely if she continued to pick the right projects. And oh boy, did Meryl Streep pick some really terrific, exciting, sometimes unusual projects in the 1990s, a decade that for any Streep fan was an abundance of riches. Because the greatest actor of her generation refused to play it safe and instead tried her hand at a couple other genres many people would not have expected, including both comedy and action. The 90s also gave us one of her all-timer performances in Clint Eastwood's The Bridges of Madison County, a very compelling dramatic turn many of us have never forgotten. Even though in this decade Meryl Streep didn't reach the heights of her award success in the 1980s, you cannot say she underperformed either, because at the Golden Globe she received another 8 nominations, and at the Oscars she got 4, all in the Best Actress category. What was she nominated for in this decade? Who was she up against? And which 2 unlikely films she made during this time I believe to be her 2 greatest movies? My name is Brian Rowe, this is the Awards Contender, and it's time for Meryl Streep and the Oscars Part 6, the 1990s. It all started with her remarkable Oscar-nominated performance in Mike Nichols' Postcards from the Edge. As Streep proved in 1989 with She-Devil, she had a desire to move into the comedy genre for the first time in her film career, and with 1990's Postcards from the Edge, she made a movie that towed the line between comedy and drama, the story of a troubled A-list actress named Suzanne who overdoses on pills and ends up in the hospital. To get insurance on her next film, she's forced to live with her drunk of a mother Doris, played by Shirley MacLaine.
Shit, Marty. I remember when I was 15 years old, Mr. Mayor called me in for a meeting. He was sitting on the toilet. We had to conduct the whole meeting with him on the toilet.
The screenplay was written by Carrie Fisher, based on her novel, as well as her own life with mother Debbie Reynolds.
You're either the best friend a person could have, or the best damned actress in the world. I love you.
Now, up until 1990, Streep had neglected showing herself on film simply as a modern-day American that much, and so it's refreshing to see that simple side of her in Postcards from the Edge. She has her addiction problems, her turmoil with her overprotective mother, but she also lets loose at times, enjoying romantic flings with a handsome young producer played by Dennis Quaid, and goofing around on movie sets. She may not be playing Australian or Polish or British here, but what Streep does is just as difficult, I think, portraying a sexy, vibrant woman whose emotional battles are not yet won. With this fantastic performance, she received her 9th Oscar nomination, up against Kathy Bates for Misery, Angelica Houston for The Grifters, Julia Roberts for Pretty Woman, and Joanne Woodward for Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. Now, unfortunately, she's not there. This is the one and only time Streep did not attend an Oscar ceremony when she was nominated because she was deep into her pregnancy with her 4th child. Sadly, Streep had no chance of winning on this time around at the 63rd Academy Awards on March 25, 1991. Postcards from the Edge only received 2 nominations, the other being Best Original Song. Shockingly, Shirley MacLaine, who is amazing in the film, didn't get a Best Supporting Actress nomination, even though she was nominated at the Golden Globes. So at the Oscars, Postcards from the Edge didn't do very well, and who knows, maybe part of the reason Streep didn't go to this one, besides her pregnancy, was that she knew she was going to lose to Kathy Bates for her spectacular performance as the crazed Annie Wilkes in Misery, my choice for the number 2 Best Acting Oscar win of all time, behind, who else, Meryl Streep for Sophie's Choice. Until very recently, Streep followed Postcards from the Edge with her longest gap ever with no Oscar nominations, 5 years between 1991 and 1996. However, in between those 5 years came some of my favorite Meryl Streep movies ever, starting with Albert Brooks' 1991 comedy masterpiece, Defending Your Life, which is a film I have held dear since high school. In the story of a man who dies and then has to defend his life before he can move on to the next stage of existence, Brooks pulls out all the stops with ideas, comedy, and creativity, and Streep is charming as ever as the perfect woman who immediately steals his heart.
It's incredible!
Who are you?
I'm Prince Valiant!
Really?
Yeah! Who are you?
Dinner.
Despite her limited screen time and lack of any true character development, Meryl Streep in Defending Your Life makes an indelible impression. It was probably the concept of the movie and the chance to work with Brooks that attracted her to the project. Even Streep would have to admit this might have been her least challenging role ever, but it also didn't hurt that she got to be funny and at the same time endearing. Defending Your Life did mediocre box office and made little impression on audiences. However, this film has very much grown in stature over the years through word of mouth, and I have never met someone who didn't love it. It may not feature Streep's most extraordinary performance, not by a long shot, but Defending Your Life is an extraordinary film, one I will treasure for the rest of my life. And then 1 year later came another favorite film of mine, one I love so much. In a few weeks' time, I am traveling to Chicago to see the stage version, the one and only Death Becomes Her. A film about two rivals who find a new lease on life with revolutionary immortality treatment. Robert Zemeckis' pitch-perfect black comedy is pure bliss for Meryl Streep fans, with her playing one of her most memorable, wildest characters ever, Madeline Ashton, who obsesses over her image to the point of doing the unthinkable.
Now a warning. Now a warning?
This role allowed her to play all kinds of different colors. She gets to sing and dance in the film's opener, she has one great zinger after another, and she also had the opportunity for the first time to work with special effects. Death Becomes Her is just a constant delight, and I'm happy Streep at least got a Golden Globe nomination for her absolutely delicious comedic performance. After making the forgettable and pretty damn lousy historical drama The House of the Spirits, co-starring Jeremy Irons and Glenn Close, Streep returned with another unexpected venture, still her one and only action thriller, The River Wild. Following in the footsteps of Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton, Streep took on an action film with so much zeal and gusto, it's a shame, I would say, she never returned to the genre since. To play the role of Gail Hartman, a skilled rafting expert, she trained for multiple weeks leading up to production and reportedly got herself in the best physical shape of her life.
Rourke, put your helmet on, buddy.
Going toe-to-toe with the evil Wade, played by a chilling Kevin Bacon, Streep shows off not only her dramatic chops as an actress, but also her physical capability throughout this most entertaining movie. It's always a thrill to see a strong, independent, capable woman on screen, and Streep makes what was already a solid project into something even greater. I do think The River Wild would have made a well-deserved Oscar nomination for Streep, especially in a Best Actress field in 1995 that is notoriously pretty weak, but at the end of the day, she only got in at the Golden Globes and SAG. Thankfully, Meryl Streep didn't have to wait too much longer for her overdue 10th Oscar nomination. It arrived in 1996 for her astonishing dramatic performance in the Bridges of Madison County. She is so quietly heartbreaking in this that she basically overshadows everything else in the film, which tells of a 4-day love affair between a married woman and a handsome photographer passing through small-town Iowa.
Go to hell! It isn't human not to be lonely, and it isn't human not to be afraid! You're a hypocrite and you're a phony!
In the end, he asks her to come away with him and be the adventurous woman her current husband never allowed her to be. The decision she makes in the film's haunting and most famous scene is one that resonates with the viewer for days. One of the great surprises of this film, I would say, is Eastwood's performance. But as fine as Eastwood is, he as the director wisely made this Francesca story and Streep's movie.
I made one phone call, and fortunately, Meryl did not turn me down because I had absolutely no backups. I was just stuck right there.
The Bridges of Madison County is easily Meryl Streep's most stellar dramatic performance of the 1990s. Every choice she makes is a good one, both the big and the small. She gets to play goofy, sad, lonely, in love, desperate, at peace, and all along the way, her Italian accent is without fault. She's incredible all the way through this film, but it's the emotionally devastating scene at the end, in the truck, in the rain, that pulls at the viewer's heartstrings the most. She doesn't just long to be with Roberts. She has an out-of-body experience as she tugs on that door handle. She knows in her heart she can't go, but she still doesn't want to give up the dream. With no words spoken, Streep tells us in her eyes exactly what she's feeling. It's a marvelously acted scene that is one of the most affecting moments of any romance film ever made. Streep rightfully received her 10th Oscar nomination for the Bridges of Madison County, and at the 68th Academy Awards on March 25, 1996, she was back in Best Actress, up against some truly formidable competition. Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking, Elizabeth Shue for Leaving Las Vegas, Sharon Stone for Casino, and Emma Thompson for Sense and Sensibility. So it had been a while since her last Oscar nomination in 1991. Did she have any shot at a win this time around? Not really. Keep in mind that The Bridges of Madison County had come out way back the previous June, and it only got one nomination, Best Actress for Streep, unlike, say, Dead Man Walking, which also got into Best Actor, Best Director, and elsewhere, and Sarandon was on her 5th Oscar nomination that night without a win, and it was time. Still, I think Streep had a reason to celebrate. She was finally back in the Oscars game, and she would be returning soon. Following her lackluster 1996 drama Before and After co-starring Liam Neeson, Streep appeared in one of her most underrated films, Marvin's Room, co-starring Diane Keaton, Robert De Niro, and Leonardo DiCaprio.
I have been over backwards to be nice to you from the moment you walked in that door.
That's right. You are nice to me when you want something.
What are you talking about?
Come on, Hank, you think your Aunt Bessie's being nice to you all of a sudden because she, what, felt an urge?
Her performance as a selfish woman named Lee who's forced to go back home to help her ailing sister Bessie is, to me, Streep's finest dramatic performance in a movie that did not go on to receive an Oscar nomination. Now, Marvin's Room did get a Best Actress nomination at the Academy Awards that year. It just went to Diane Keaton instead. Which does make sense given her similarly strong performance in this most wonderful film. If you have never seen Marvin's Room, I highly recommend you check it out. After making a rare jump to the small screen in 1997 for the film First Do No Harm, Streep returned to theaters with another Oscar-caliber vehicle in 1998 with One True Thing, about a journalist named Ellen, played by Renee Zellweger, who returns home to take care of her mother Kate, who's been diagnosed with cancer.
It's so much easier to be happy, my love. It's so much easier to choose to love the things that you have.
Both Zellweger and William Hurt deliver terrific performances in this very depressing drama, and Streep is similarly outstanding. There's no mystery in why she wanted to play Kate. This role is an actor's dream. She's full of life in the beginning, but then slowly disintegrates as cancer wreaks havoc on her mind and body. She has one emotional moment after another in the film's final act, and one particular scene where she tells her daughter that she's sad because she won't be able to help plan her wedding is Streep at her devastating best. Here's a monologue that could have felt overwritten or schmaltzy with another actress, but Streep nails every beat, every gesture. She often goes after roles in the movies that show the not-so-pretty side of herself, and in One True Thing she allowed viewers to see one of her saddest, most vulnerable sides of all. As I'm sure everybody expected, Streep received her 11th Oscar nomination for this performance, this time in Best Actress, going up against Cate Blanchett for Elizabeth, Fernanda Montenegro for Central Station, Gwyneth Paltrow for Shakespeare in Love, and Emily Watson for Hillary and Jackie. At the 71st Academy Awards on March 21st, 1999, Streep had zero chance for a win. Just like she was for the Bridges of Madison County, Streep was the only nomination for One True Thing, and as is still the case today, it's really hard to win an acting Oscar when you're the only nomination for the movie. In 1999, this was definitely the case for Streep up against Blanchett and Paltrow, who were in beloved end-of-the-year movies that both had numerous Oscar nominations in a variety of categories. Famously, or infamously maybe, the Academy voters decided that year not to go with Blanchett in Best Actress or the incredible Montenegro in Central Station, and chose Paltrow for Best Actress, a win that for many hasn't aged very well.
The greatest one who ever was, Meryl Streep. I don't feel very deserving of this in your presence, but...
After appearing in the mostly forgotten ensemble drama Dancing at Lunasa, Meryl Streep made one more film in the 1990s, the well-intentioned biopic drama Music of the Heart, director Wes Craven's one chance to break out of the horror genre following his huge success with the Scream films. After Madonna, of all people, dropped out of playing the lead character in the film Roberta, a struggling single mother who takes a music teacher position at a Harlem elementary school to make ends meet, Craven pursued Streep and eventually won her over.
I think you're underestimating them. They can learn to play as well as any other kids.
Oh, that I'd like to see.
Well, you will.
Now, let's be honest, Music of the Heart may not be one of Streep's most memorable films, but she does make the most of her role as an inspirational music teacher. She's in almost every scene, commanding the screen by employing both her comedic and dramatic gifts, not to mention her musical chops. When she appeared on Inside the Actor's Studio with James Lipton, she said if she hadn't become an actress, she would have loved to have been a musician, and in Music of the Heart, she got to finally show what she's made of. She is great in this movie, not just in portraying an emotionally distraught mother and teacher who cares about her students, but also as a failed musician who gets a second chance when she plays a sold-out concert in Carnegie Hall. Streep is so convincing as a violin player in this movie, one would assume she had been practicing the instrument her entire life, not the mere 4 weeks she had before production commenced. Wes Craven's Music of the Heart kind of came and went in October 1999, not making much of an impact at the box office, but it still managed 2 Oscar nominations, Best Original Song and Best Actress for Streep. This marking, for those of you keeping score at home, her 12th nomination to date. At the 72nd Academy Awards on February 15, 2000, Streep was up against Annette Bening for American Beauty, Janet McTeer for Tumbleweeds, Julianne Moore for The End of the Affair, and Hilary Swank for Boys Don't Cry. Once again, Streep had no shot at a win, she was just happy to be there, taking a slot at the Oscars I think should have gone to Reese Witherspoon for her original and daring comedic performance in Election. Let's face it, Best Actress that award season came down to Bening or Swank, and even though Bening was in the film that went on to win Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture, American Beauty, Swank's astonishing performance in Boys Don't Cry in the end just couldn't be overcome. So even though Meryl Streep didn't really have a chance at winning at the Oscars throughout the 1990s, her run of 4 nominations was still pretty remarkable, and at the turn of the century, you had to wonder if Streep would keep the awards momentum going. Were her roles going to dry up now that she was in her 50s? Hell effing no. As we'll discuss in Meryl Streep and the Oscars Part 7, the next decade would not only bring 4 more Oscar nominations, but also make Streep something she'd never really been before, a box office superstar. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite Meryl Streep film from the 1990s, and do you think she deserved to win an Oscar this decade? We'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.